Thank you for turning to page 121. Today we're going to jump into Unearthed Arcana, in this its 40th year of existence. And we're going to look at a seldom used spell at my table. One that's got some uses, but it's in here. I think it was just kind of filling pages myself, but it is Melf's Acid Arrow. It's a level 2 spell, range is 30 feet. Duration is special. Area of effect is 1 target. Verbal, somatic, and material components. 4-segment casting time and saving throw is special. By means of the spell, the magic user creates a magical arrow, see the air quotes, which speeds itself to its target as if fired from the bow of a fighter of the same level of magic user casting the spell. The arrow is equal to a +1 weapon for hit determination purposes. The effect of a hit might inflict damage on the target, even if it would not normally be harmed by an arrow or a magic weapon of only +1 value. This is due to the acid. The arrow itself does 2 to 5 points of damage. The acid which gushes forth when it hits is equal to acid missile of 8-ounce volume. So that's a 1-foot diameter, area of effect, 2 to 8 points of damage, plus item saving throw, and splash does not apply. I'll explain all that in a minute. The acid's strength increases by 1 round's worth of damage for every 3 levels of experience of the spellcaster above the 3rd. So the damage will occur over 2 rounds if the caster is 4th to 6th level magic user, unless the target can have the acid neutralized. The material components of the spell are a dart and powdered rhubarb leaf and adder's stomach, and adder as in the snake. You have to have his tummy. So basically, the first advantage this gives you is you are hurling this or firing this at your target, but you're doing so on the fighter table, which is much better than the magic user table. So that gives you an advantage there. The arrow is equal to +1 for hit determination purposes, but does not give a +1 to damage. So you get you're doing this at fighter of the same level, +1 for hit determinations. So it's a +1 bonus. I also give dexterity on this. So if the magic user has a dexterity of 17, they'd be +2 to hit with it, in addition to the +1. The effect of the hit might inflict damage over the target, even if it would not normally be harmed by an arrow or magic weapon due to the acid. This is interesting because, okay, if I have an iron golem and I want to use this on an iron golem and I fire it, we had a lot of arguments about this spell. It says it would do the damage because of the acid. Does that mean that the 2 to 5 points of damage would not apply if the creature itself needed a greater than +1 weapon to be hit? I think that's what it says. That's how we ruled it at my table. So if I were to fire this at an iron golem, which is +3 or better weapon to hit, the target will take damage from the acid, which is 2 to 8 points per round, and we'll get to how many rounds that is in just a moment, but I would not allow the damage for the arrow itself of 2 to 5 points, simply because it says it's due to the acid. It's just how we interpreted it. This was a lot of arguing at the table over this spell. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff in Unearthed Arcana didn't really get a ton of playtest, and this is a perfect example of that. So if it's a 1-foot diameter area of effect, 2 to 8 points of damage, an item saving throw. So let's say instead of throwing it at or shooting it at my golem, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shoot this at a thief wearing +1 leather armor. So I hit him. Now his +1 leather armor does have to save or be destroyed by the acid. That's a pretty cool byproduct of this spell. And that's one of the reasons I do think that players should take it, especially if it's going to be a town adventure, or your big bad evil guy has, fabulous armor or great shield or something like that. This would be a good weapon to kind of help take that away from him. And then you get damage from the arrow itself of 2 to 5 points, but at my table, only if the creature is subject to +1 or better, +1 weapons or less. In other words, if it was a gargoyle, for instance, I would give the 2 to 5 damage plus the acid damage. This, by the way, at my table, you cast this at 3rd level. At anybody's table, you cast this at 3rd level magic user. This is a good one against gargoyles. And then you get the acids continuing for a round for every 3 levels of experience the caster above the 3rd, which is very poorly worded. So the damage will occur over 2 rounds if the caster is 4th to 6th, and then if they were to be 7th to 9th, it would be 3 rounds, and that would just be the 2 to 8, and that would be 2 to 8 points rolled each round unless the acid is somehow washed off or neutralized. And that caused a lot of arguing at the table too, because a lot of the players were saying, wait a minute, it's the 2 to 5 plus the 2 to 8. But my reading is it's the arrow itself does 2 to 5 points of damage. You're not shooting a new arrow at it every round. This is just persistent acid burn. And so it is only the acid. And again, that's a ruling we made at my table, but that seems to be consistent with the way the spell is written. And that's really about it. It's good. I can see where if you're higher level, I guess you would take this. You could go ahead and fire. You do 2 to 5, and then maybe you do 2 to 3 rounds, depending on your level, of 2 to 8 points of damage while you can inflict other damage. That's decent. That's fine. If you're a 9th level magic user, though, you're going to need more damage than that to take out a target. But like I said, where this really shines, in my opinion, is if you're going after the magic item or the clothing the person's wearing. In addition to giving them damage, you can rob them of that. So my thief in the +1 leather, for my example, would have to make a saving throw versus acid of +1 or lose his armor. That can be a really big deal, and that is really where the strength of this spell comes in. That and the fact that you're on the fighter table for you to hit. So 4-segment casting time for a 2nd level spell, that's pretty long. Usually it's 1 segment per level for magic user spells, give or take. But so 4 segments is kind of a long time, but ultimately should make a ton of difference depending on the situation, of course. But I have seen this spell used. I've used this against players. It's actually a really good one against players, because once they realize that the acid is going to damage the article of clothing they've got on, then they become really worried about the spell. Prior to that, the damage they don't really care about. So there are some uses to this spell. By the way, as far as the damage goes, the leather armor in my example, the question becomes, does the thief have to make 1 saving throw for multiple rounds, or does he make a saving throw each round? At my table, it's 1 saving throw, even though the acid is continuing to burn and do damage, and there's a good, strong argument to be every round of the new acid damage, he would have to make a saving throw for his item. I haven't done that. Now, I could let myself be talked into that if I had a player who really felt enough about this spell to actually kind of work me on it a little bit and give his reasoning and everything else. I don't necessarily object to the idea of giving the saving throw per round of damage, but I don't know that that's what was intended. So that's my thinking. Let me know what you think, how you use the spell. Leave some comments below about how you use the spell, if you've ever even seen the spell used at your table. I have seen players cast it. I have as a player have cast it, and as a DM I have used it. So it's got some uses. But that's all I've got today on page 121 for Melf's Acid Arrow. Let me know what you think. Have you used this spell? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Is it a waste of space? Who knows? Also, leave your comments below, suggestions for future videos. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Tell your friends, and also take a look at the Patreon, see if you can help me out there. But that's it for today on page 121. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.